Morning, ladies and gentlemen. CPA Esther Kaliewach-Sache. I would like to welcome you to the Student Engagement Webinars 2024. Thank you for registering in large numbers. Our session chair for today is CPA Claire Najuko, who will be running this session, and she'll be introducing our panelists, our presenter for the day. At this moment, we have financial accounting, which will run from 9 a.m. to 10:30. So we shall use 1 hour for the presentation and then 30 minutes for your questions. In case you have any question, kindly post it in the Q&A. Don't use the chat. So Claire, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much, Esther, for that kind introduction. Once again, I would like to welcome you to this session of financial accounting, our very first student engagement of 2024. This morning, without wasting time, I would like to introduce our presenter for that day. Her name is CPA Dr. Caroline Teresa. Yes, she's a CPA and she's also a PhD holder in business management, specializing in accounting. She obviously has a master's in science degree in accounting and finance. As I said, she's a CPA, so it means she went through the process. She's a certified public accountant. Teresa is a lecturer at Makerere University Business School, where she has been lecturing for the past 16 years. She's also a professional advisor at the Law Development Center. So here at ICPA, felt that Teresa is the best qualified person to talk about financial accounting. So before I invite Teresa, I'll just briefly remind you to post your questions in the Q&A. We shall have a question and answer session in the last 30 minutes. So Teresa, you're going to present for 1 hour. So join me, welcome Teresa, to speak to us about how to pass financial accounting. Dr. Teresa, you're most welcome.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Claire. And good morning to you all, Esther, Claire, Justus, and everyone that is present. All those that have logged in, you're most welcome. Okay, Esther, you are sharing something. Yeah, thank you, Madam Claire, CPA Claire, for that introduction. So you all know my name now. And just like she has said, I'm just going to go through, share with you, and then we'll have question and answers. And I'm very sure you just didn't make a mistake to be here at this moment. You have a reason why you've logged in, because you want to excel in this financial accounting. And you know, sometimes let me say us all. Sometimes we tend to imagine or believe or think that financial accounting is just an easy subject we shall all pass, you know. It is, you can't just fail financial. It's basics, they are simple things, but it's just unfortunate that even despite the fact that we think financial accounting can always be easy, things really don't happen to be as we think. And therefore, that means that we always need to take everything serious, not just even for financial accounting, but the moment you want to enroll yourself for this course of wanting to become a certified public accountant, there are no chokes. There's no paper that you're going to say, this is easy, this is a walkover, I can just enter in the examination room and just pass. If you have been reading the comment of the examiners, you've seen the comments. Like, is like someone wakes up sometimes just in the morning and remembers, oh, I have financial accounting paper. Oh, let me run to wherever you are supposed to be sitting for the exam. And just someone just comes in and wants to sit for the financial accounting, and they expect that they're actually going to excel. Things just don't happen like that. This is called a qualified public accountant. It means that it is something you must have really worked upon or really put in effort for you to earn it. It just doesn't come in a silver plate. And I will not lie to you that you're going to become a certified public accountant on a silver plate. No. Whoever has become one, they have really put in their effort. They have not taken anything for granted. And I want to believe you are one of those ones. Otherwise, you will not have logged in. Those who really don't take it serious, they wouldn't even have logged in. So I want to take you as those students who are really very serious, and you are taking this in another level. And you are aware that to really get up there, you must have to put in effort, sacrifice time, sacrifice anything that it takes to make you get there. Now, as you are preparing for the financial accounting, it is not even just about passing financial accounting. You see, financial accounting, it's just going to introduce you, because there are many other papers that you're going to do that will be based on what you would have actually acquired in financial accounting. Maybe just to share, I think I need to share with you this. If you see if you look at the syllabus, we are starting with financial accounting, but you see, when you excel very well in financial accounting, it will assist you to move into financial reporting. What does that mean? That maybe if you pray to your God in one way or the other, and maybe you come for this financial accounting and say, oh, you escaped and got maybe a 50, and you're like, oh, I passed it. Maybe there are certain basic concepts you didn't get to acquire or understand or get to master. And then you move on and you have to go to paper 7. Remember, after you do paper 1, it will lead you to paper 7. This concept that you may not have acquired in here, you can't escape. When you arrive to financial reporting, they will catch up with you. So you reach in financial reporting and things become tough and you're just not getting out of the paper. And you're like, why am I doing this paper 3-4 times? You know, there are people who have done these papers many times. Someone does face, and like, I think people of ICPU, they have malice. They don't want me to continue. They just want me to pay the money. They're just money-minded. But really, in the reality, the issues started from financial accounting. That there are those concepts you needed to have appreciated, understood, for you to be able to proceed to financial reporting. So you will escape it, but you don't go far. You reach here and things get stuck. Even when you're in financial reporting, if you don't get the concept, actually, this financial accounting gives you the basis to move to paper 7, to move to paper 13, and as well as to move to paper 14. The reason why you are seeing that the first engagement we have had is for financial accounting, because financial accounting gives you the basics. If you want to become an accountant, honestly speaking, if you have not understood the basic, even when people use softwares, you will only use the software having understood what are the basics in accounting, because a software, garbage in, garbage out. Whatever you feed it, it's what it will give you. So even when you're using those softwares, you must have had a concept to understand what items to record where and when, and so forth. So that's where you realize that really financial accounting becomes very key, very important, that you need to have got the concept. If you listen to if you have read, and which I want to think and believe, but I have no evidence, to a certain extent, because of the comments of the examiners year after year, that most of us, probably we don't get to read these examiners' comments, because they really bring out certain areas. But you see, if you have been reading for the past 3-4 sittings, you can see that there are those common comments will always come in. Issues of suspense, issues of depreciation, issues of double entry. Double entry. I think now, all accounting is based on double entry. So if they keep on commenting that the issues are around the double entry, then why can't we prepare ourselves and understand that concept of double entry? You know, they bring out the issue so well that ideally you shouldn't enter in the examination room having not understood the concept of double entry. And the concept of double entry is not like it is so difficult to be understood. No, it just needs you to default yourself and have a positive attitude. So now me today, I'll talk about the attitude. These things have been done. We have done them. Many people have done them. And so you can do it. It is possible you can do it. And not just doing it to get a pass mark 50, 60. Why 50, 60? When you have paper 7, you have paper 13, you have paper 14. So if you got a 50 or a 60 in paper 1, so what are you going to get in paper 7, 13, and 14? You need to excel in paper 1. You should be able at least get a perfect 80. Yeah, you must have excelled, like showing or indicating or implying that you have totally got the concept so well from down here that is going to guide you to people to go through paper 7, paper 13, paper 14. Because now you pass here, marginal pass. It will have an effect on how are you going to pass up there. That's why it is so important. I know the remaining days, they can always make a difference. That you need to get the concept from down. You can't escape this and think these are going to be okay for you. No, let us get the concept from down. And as I'm going to take through the rest, you're going to realize that the main issues really normally comes around the double entry. Double entry is where we are having issues as far as financial accounting is concerned. So let us just go through this and then we make sure that at least pick the concept, understand the concept. The moment you have the concept, the rest is going to be a walkover. Okay. So I was just giving you an overview of how that syllabus looks like and what you are expected, and also to tell you to soften your heart. And as you go through, I know you attend schools. There are those colleges you are attending, you are able to study. By the way, don't take things for granted. And don't just walk in the examination room and you think you're going to go along it just like that. I told you, as I said earlier, you may escape, but you will not go far. It will catch up with you as you move on. Because if you hadn't got the concept down here, the other papers would actually catch up with you. So let us make sure as we are preparing to come for the examination, we are fully prepared and ready to excel, not just to pass financial accounting. So I'm going to take you through a bit of the presentation. Then we'll have, as Madam Claire said, some of the questions. Look, we are going to look at briefly at the syllabus and what are the examiners expecting from the candidates, so that people don't go in there and they want to set their own questions and they answer them. If I have read one, I've been reading the examiner's comments, and there's one of the comments that the examiner put in, and there's something they will ask about a trial balance, and then they ask you to prepare an adjusted trial balance. Normally they used to give a hint. So the last exam they said the question was not asking about that same formula, but because people have crammed it, it has to be the same. They answered question that wasn't even asked. So do you really give details when you enter in the examination room and be able to understand what is it required by you and how are you supposed to go about it? We understand a bit of the relevance of the subject and then maybe the common causes of the students' failure. By the way, sometimes we don't fail because we are stupid or we don't know or we didn't understand. Sometimes they're just small mistakes that sometimes actually make us to fail. Sometimes even you don't get to really select the right questions that you're supposed to do. So I'm going to start by first just briefly going through the syllabus a bit. And what is the aim of the financial accounting? It's just to enable you to develop that understanding of the fundamentals. These are basic, just fundamentals of financial accounting. Fundamentals of financial accounting relating to bookkeeping and preparation of financial statements. Having known that preparation of financial statements is just a continuation of bookkeeping. Bookkeeping, we just prepare the basic books and, we don't go further to do the analysis and be able to interpret and present that information to users for informed decision-making. And therefore, the financial accounting is just to give you that basic understanding of those fundamentals and how you get to the end of preparation of financial statements. And in this case, when you talk about financial statement, this can be from different entities. They can be for a merchandise or trading firm, it can be a service industry, can be a manufacturing, can be a non-profit making organization. And also knowing that this is some of the, especially small businesses, they don't get to appreciate the aspect of preparation of books of account. So you find they have issues to do with incomplete records. So how are you able to prepare fully financial statement or sets of financial statement for such different types of firms? So we are just not looking at one, but that multiple financial statements. And then what is the learning outcome? Now, this is, by the way, I just want you to pay a lot of attention in here. When you talk about the learning outcome, you yourself, I want you to examine your own self as we are going through this engagement. Evaluate yourself, because I know some of you have been able to have a position or a chance to attend classes, or you have got a chance of discussing with your friends because you are now preparing to come and sit for the exam. And therefore, as we are going through the engagement, I want you to do a self-evaluation, a self-appreciation. Find out to what extent have you attained this information. When you look at the learning outcome you've been discussing or studying, ask yourself these things. Can you be able to explain the role of accounting and accountants? That's what the aim at the end of the day you are expected to be able to do. And even when the questions or the examination comes, it is all based around here. Actually, you can take yourself and see, are you in a position to describe the financial reporting framework? Can you explain what is entailed in the framework itself? Can you explain the qualitative characteristics of financial information? Do you know them? Do you know the fundamental, the enhancing qualitative characteristics? It is so surprising sometimes to read those comments of the examiners. And imagine you see examiner talking about a student who aren't able to distinguish between fundamental and enhancing qualitative characteristics. These are just basics. And students cannot be able to distinguish between the fundamental and enhancing. And they can't even explain, for example, what is faithful representation or relevance. Then you ask yourself, and this student really wants to become an accountant? To me, as I was reading, I felt to a certain extent, maybe others are just coming to do the course for the sake, because a very serious student, surely, there are those basics you don't expect them to be unable to explain or to distinguish or to describe. You ask yourself, can you be able to explain the different forms of business organizations? Can you record transactions in the books of prime entry and ledger using double entry bookkeeping? Look at the comment of the exam, even for the last sitting. Issues are all around double entry. One of the comments of the examiner for the last sitting says that students could not differentiate between a journal and a ledger. You want to become an accountant. You have prepared yourself for financial accounting, and the examiner asks you to prepare a journal, and you prepare ledgers. And you prepare ledgers. You can't distinguish between a journal and a ledger. Then that means there's a very big problem. That's what I'm telling you. By looking at this learning outcome, you can be able to evaluate yourself and know how ready are you for the examination? How prepared are you for the examination? This is just enough for you to weigh yourself. So if you can't distinguish between a journal and a ledger, then probably you are not yet ready to become a CPA. And I am sorry, I may sound sometimes a bit tough, but I think I need to just tell you the truth. And it's better to tell you the truth and nothing else but the truth and facts. And you cannot always evaluate yourself and say, for whose company are you going to be able to prepare books of account if you don't know how a journal looks like and how a ledger looks like? What are you going to do for them? Ask yourself, can you be able to prepare a trial balance and correct errors in accounting records? And you see the aspect of the trial balance and correction of errors, it all takes us back to double entry system. If you don't understand the double entry system, then it's going to be very difficult for you to correct errors. The other comment, I think that was question 1 last sitting. If you look at the comment of the examiner, I'm going to share with you briefly those comments. And you see the students we are interchanging where they were supposed to record information. Students could simply not cancel errors that were made wrongly or could not actually correct those errors. And then you ask yourself, if you have not understood the double entry, it affects everything that you are going to prepare. There's another comment. The examiner spoke about the correction of errors, about the suspense. And students didn't know which item appears in the suspense account and which one do not appear. Equally, he did comment, they commented about when they were collecting the profits, they didn't know which items to be added and which items to be subtracted. Make sure I clarify that as I move on, especially when I bring in to share with you what was commented in there. So you ask yourself, at this level, are you able to prepare a trial balance? Do you know errors that can affect a trial balance, errors that cannot be detected by the trial balance? If errors have been occurred, do you know how to correct them? And where necessary, you have to bring in aspect of suspense. Can you correct those errors and be able to reconcile your suspense account? Knowing that a suspense account is just a temporal account, and therefore, after correction of errors, is supposed to cease to exist. Then ask yourself, can you prepare financial statement for business organization? In this case, remember we said it can be for a service industry, a trading firm, manufacturing firm, non-profit making organization, and even for partnerships. Are you able to prepare those financial statements for those different types of businesses? Of course, the aspect of the statement of profit or loss, those ones we normally, depending on the entity, they could differ. But the aspect of a statement of changes in equity, a statement of financial position, they are not going to change. Whether it's a manufacturing, whether non-profit, made a service, or it is not going to change. A statement of financial position, statement of changes in equity will always be the same. The only what differs in there is whether it's a service industry, a manufacturing firm, non-profit, and therefore that aspect of statement of profit or loss or statement of income and expenditure will differ depending on which entity you are preparing the financial statements for. Can you be able to reconcile financial transaction, either for the control account or for the bank reconciliation? Knowing that there's no any organization in this world that there is not that doesn't do reconciliation. Yeah, it always has to be there. Ask yourself as you're getting ready to the examination, can you prepare accounts and financial statements from incomplete records? As I said earlier, mainly, especially the small businesses, you find that in most cases, there will be other reasons, you know them, that makes firms not to have complete records. And in case it has happened, and most likely you can be given that as a consultant's work, and you're supposed to assist this firm to be able to complete books of account. Are you in a position to do that? And of course, knowing that if that is the case, ask yourself a number of questions. If you are doing preparing a financial statement from incomplete records, what are those items you need to know? Can you prepare control accounts? Can you determine the sales and the purchases and the expenses and so forth? Can you use the margins, for example, if that's what they are using in the firm and they weren't able to know the sales or the purchases and the markup to determine those values before you prepare the financial statement. So those should be the outcome you expected, and that is what is going to be expected for you to do in the examination room, but also when you get out there to the field and you're going to assist the clients. Those are the things you expect at least to be having or to be able to do. Do you understand can you be able to apply the general features of financial statements, apply some international financial reporting standards? The financial accounting doesn't give so much until when you reach in financial reporting, and as you move on up, but at least that those basic like IS2, IS still, at least you are able to IS1, basic, some of them, not all of them, those that have been brought out clearly. Do you understand those few that are there? But finally, can you describe the ethical responsibility and challenges of accountants in the business, of which definitely in any form of business, we can't expect to escape that. So as I said, the syllabus of financial accounting will form a foundation for financial reporting paper 8 and advanced financial reporting paper 13, and of course the public sector accounting, or that is paper 14, as I showed you earlier. And it aims at introducing the principles of accounting relating to double entry bookkeeping and preparation of financial statements. It's just the examiner will test the knowledge. Do you have the knowledge? Do you have the skill? Do you have the comprehension? That's the basic aspect that they are going to look at. Do you have the knowledge? Do you have the skill? Because we are expecting that at the end of the course, by I think level 2, you are able to get out there and actually assist the clients. So do you have the knowledge that you can assist your client out there? Do you have the skill? Now, in doing all this, the basic of financial accounting, you must have understood the double entry rule, and you are in a position to prepare at least those different financial statements. In the examination structure, of course, there will be a 3-hour examination made up of section A and B. kindly members, it's very important that we understand the structure of the examination. It can be very disappointing that a student enter in the examination room and you are not able to do section A of the questions, because section A will be comprising of 20 compulsory multiple choice questions of 20 marks, and that section is normally compulsory, meaning that whether you like it or not, you must do it. If you don't do it, it means you lose 20 marks. So they are going to mark the other 8, but it will be out of 100. So if you're going to reach the examination room, you must be able to know that, have you looked at what is the structure of the examination? What is required of all? Section A is compulsory, meaning that you must attempt all that question. And because they are multiple choice questions, you are expected to answer that in your answer booklet, not in the question paper. You are not supposed to circle those answers in the question paper. You are supposed to read and answer everything in your answer booklet. Maybe at this point, I will speak, not to forget from what I'm seeing in the examiners. You know, sometimes, never at any one point in time, enter in the examination room and you're supposed to do some of the computation and you feel you want to do it on a rough paper, which you are going to go with. Or in that case, you will be doing it in your question paper. Anything you feel you want to do rough work, you want to compute, everything must be done in your answer booklet. So even those MCQs, all of them are supposed to be answered in your okay. Then section B will comprise of 5 questions. Now, the 5 questions, you're supposed to pick 4. Okay? You are supposed to pick 4 out of those ones. Now, you see, students are very interesting. The students will go in, you're supposed to pick 4, and then you go in, you want to do all of them. Now, what happens when you want to do all of them? If you want to do all of them, it means that you are going to eat up the time you would have used to do the 4. Now, for you want to do all the 5, for example. And yet, they are only going to pick only 4. So why would you do excess than picking the question you're supposed to do and concentrate and give your best to those questions? So that section B will have 5 questions and you are expected to only do 4. So at the end of the day, you guys would have done 5 questions. Section A, you would have done that compulsory question. Yeah? Okay. The question A, I think for you people, you answer, no, I think that is you have remembered. Yeah. For you people, you answer in the question paper. So you, normally that question is normally separate from section B. So section A is different and it does that MCQs, which you circle, yeah, in your question paper. And then, but Claire will clarify on that. Now, the section B, I want to emphasize a little bit on section B. On section B, when you are entering in the examination room, my best advice I give the students is that look at all the questions, read through, and you are not reading from like what the whole question. No, you go to what is required. Go down there to what is required. When you read to what is required, look at, maybe you are supposed to prepare financial statements. Maybe another one you are supposed to prepare, maybe it's IS-16, or another you are supposed to prepare maybe a manufacturing statement or a partnership. So you look at what is required in each of the questions to be able to know which one do you understand very well or you are comfortable with. Because the expectation here is that by the time you reach in the examination room, you are supposed to know everything. Yes, you are supposed to know everything. That is the fact. And that is expected of the student, that when you reach in the examination room, you should know everything because you do not even know which part of the questions will come anyway. But it's not even about just passing. But you need to have this knowledge. You need to have these skills so that when you get out there, you don't shame the profession that you are not able to do certain things. So when you look at what is required, you will be knowing everything, yes, but you find that those areas you are very comfortable. Get to pick which of those questions you want to attempt. So you pick them, you say, I'll do question 2, I'll do question 4, 5, and 6. And then even after having picked what you want to do, my advice is, you don't have to do them in that order. Pick the question you know best, and you can do it in the shortest time possible. Pick that question. Do it fast. Let it be your fasting presentation. You know, even the first impression matters a lot. Of course, it doesn't really matter as such, but it matters a lot because if you start doing the first question, you write a little, you realize that, hey, I forgot it's not supposed to be this one. You cancel. You start another one. Already when the person opening your booklet, hey, this one was not prepared. You get it? So you start with the question you understand best and you can answer it in the shortest time possible. Start with that question so that you have an output, because the other time, as we're going to see later, is time management. So open that question, start with the one you know very well. You can do it in the shortest time possible. You know, sometimes we get excited. Now you may enter there, you find the question, yes, you know it, but the question is so long and it's going to take you a lot of time. And because you are so happy and you want to show the examiner you know it, you take your sweet time in it there and you end up not answering some of the questions. So we shall look into that later. But pick the questions you can do best. Pick the one you know best and you can do shortest time possible. Start with that one and start with it. So in that order that you can answer best. So that why I'm saying like that is that if you know the question very well, you are not going to take a lot of time thinking or trying to remember for that case, and therefore you'll be able to answer it as quick as possible and create more time for where you may need to remember or try to, you know, to put together the ideas or the knowledge that you had acquired. So we make sure we do that. Now, what is the relevance of the course? Of course, the main objective of financial accounting is to enable the user, you and all of us, to make an informed decision. That's the main objective of financial accounting. But there are so many decisions you can make. They can be investment decision, financial decision, but also for the tax payment aspect, budgeting and planning, control, performance of an entity, credit transaction, and so forth and so on. These ones I want to believe we all know them. Now, briefly, just to take you through the syllabus, and then we come back to the other issues. Now, in your introduction, you're supposed to understand the aspect of the branches of accounting, the forms of business entities, the role of an accountant. It's surprising that some of the comments a student can't write a role of an accountant. Imagine, you want to become one, you don't know what is going to be your role. Hey, members. Okay, I'm imagining you are not one of those ones. You want to be different. But those are basics. At least by the time you're entering the examination room, you know the different branches of accounting, the forms of accounting, the role of an accounting, and of course, some other different aspects. You know the IFRSs, the conceptual framework. You can bring out all that aspect of the elements, the qualitative characteristics, the accounting concepts, and etc. You understand them, you know the general features of financial statement, the Companies Act, because these things, they normally examine them. And please, never, did you say sport? Is it sport? I think they call it sport. Never sport. Never say, me, I'm going to take the exam when I know this one and this one and this one. Oh, my friend, you are supposed to know everything. Especially when you look at section A. Section A, the compulsory question. Compulsory question picks questions from all over the syllabus. So you can't say, for me, I want to only understand 3 topics. You don't know whether they will come or not. Or in most cases, you know that normally the way the exam is set, it tries to cover almost 80–90% of the syllabus. So if you say you want to study this to leave the other one, you are probably going to come to the examination room and you can answer like 2 questions and you can't answer the others. Then when you reach in the MCQs, you start just imagining D, C, A. You are even not thinking because you can't even answer them. Of course, section C is the principles of double entry and system of accounting. And I really want to say this is really this is pregnant, like this is vital. If you really want to go along with accounting in your life in future, even in what we do by the everyday, it's about double entry. So you need to understand the accounting question and double entry system, double entry bookkeeping, and preparation of books of accounts. It's so disturbing. I was reading the comments of I think that was last sitting, and the examiner was saying that the students we are exchanging. Instead of debiting, they were crediting. Instead of crediting, they were debiting. Now, what brings all that? It means there wasn't enough preparation, or there wasn't that appreciation of the concept of double entry. And unfortunately, the moment you have not appreciated the aspect of double entry, everything is going to be a problem for you. Yeah. And you're not going to go so far. You reach their financial reporting, the problem will kick you back again. back again until you get to appreciate the concept of double entry, preparation of those books of accounts. And then, of course, the other part D is the adjustments. Oh, accruals and prepayment, depreciation, bad debt discounts. Very simple things that we should be able to appreciate. Now, as we have said that, as you move on, you must be able to prepare books of accounts. But as you are going to prepare financial statement, you must be able to understand how do you go about accruals. And when we talk accruals, members here, you must understand how you're doing the accruals for expenses and accruals for incomes. You must be able to distinguish between the two. So if you're preparing a financial statement and there are accrual expenses, how do you treat accrual expenses? I want you to try and evaluate yourself as I take you through this course, the syllabus. It's enough for you to know to what extent or how ready are you for this paper. If you're going to look at the accruals, if you're talking about the accrual expenses, do you know how to treat accrual expenses? You know that if they are accrual expenses, I am supposed to add them. Those I'm supposed to add because they are expected to pay, so they become a liability. If they are accrual incomes, why am I supposed to treat them? If they are accrual incomes, we are supposed to subtract those becomes the income you expect to receive. They become current assets. So how do you treat them in your statements? If you're talking about prepayments, how do you treat the prepayments in the aspect of the expenses and income? If they are prepayment of income, it means those becomes liabilities. First of all, you have not yet earned, so you must subtract. But then where do you record them in the balance sheet? You put them as liabilities. But if they are prepaid expenses, it means you've not yet incurred. Yes, you will still subtract, but prepaid expenses means that you are paid in advance and you expect to receive a service. So where do you expect to record them in the balance sheet? As a current asset. So you see the way you treat income is opposite the way you treat payment in the aspect of accruals and repayments. So those are basically you expect at least someone who has gone through level 1 should be able to know how to adjust them. Look at the aspect of depreciation, which I see it's a comment for all the examiner's comments. This one has come out. Depreciation. And depreciation, actually, I think it was one of my best topics I did at the university, and even when I was doing my profession. I think it will always be my first question. Remember, I told you, always when you enter the examination, do the number you like, you enjoy doing best, and you understand it very well. But students have issues with the aspect of depreciation, especially in the part of apportionment, determining accumulated depreciation. Now, when they bring the aspect of disposal, then students get lost. Because if they bring aspect of disposal, if you look at the last sitting comment, the students were writing the accumulated depreciation of the asset which was disposed of, and they were taking it to the asset account. Surely speaking, what are the procedures for disposing of a non-current asset? You open a disposal account so that you can deposit the cost of the asset to the disposal, the total accumulated depreciation of that asset to the disposal, and then you receive the proceeds of that disposed asset, and then you are able to determine was there a gain or a loss on the disposal of that non-current asset. So that goes to under IAS 16 altogether. But also, if I'm briefly to talk in detail a little bit, is if you are given a comprehensive question on IAS 16, where maybe you have 2 or 3 non-current assets, and of which are going to be depreciated in the course of the year, or they are going to acquire more non-current assets in the course of the year, and they will dispose some of them in the course of the year. It is very important for you to watch out how they depreciate those non-current assets. Is it on a time apportionment or proportionate basis, or is it maybe no dispose or no depreciation in the year of acquisition, and maybe there is the depreciation in the year of acquisition and none in the year of disposal? Because that is able to guide you to know how do you determine the total accumulated depreciation for the asset that you're going to dispose of. Now, the unfortunate part of depreciation is that the moment you don't compute, especially where they are using a reducing balance method, if you don't compute the right, first of all, determine the right cost of the non-current asset, which again becomes an issue. You must understand the capital and the revenue expenditure. Which of those expenses must be capitalized? Because if you don't capitalize the right costs to determine the right cost of that non-current asset, you are going to add or you are going to subject that non-current asset to depreciation on a wrong amount. And I am telling you the unfortunate part of it is that the moment you get the wrong cost, the depreciation will be wrong. If you get the right cost and you don't depreciate it appropriately, you are going to get a wrong depreciation, which you keep on carrying every year. Yeah. And if you keep on carrying every year, it means that the whole question is going to be wrong. So you have to be very sensitive, and very keen when you are dealing with a number of IAS 16. Very keen. Make sure you have the right cost. Make sure you have got the right depreciation they are using, the method, and you have depreciated appropriately. Some students, actually, if you look at the comments, they just don't know how to, they just calculate wrongly. I don't know how you use your calculator. Some students, I think they just get the, because me, I'm also teaching the university. So I know some of these things that the students do. You're going to buy a calculator the last minute to run to Obanambole or to Mengo to do exam. You don't even know how to use the calculator. You end up pressing wrong things. And the figures are there appropriately. Now, why I'm over insisting on the depreciation is that if you get the wrong figure, you are going to carry the same wrong figure throughout. So you can imagine everything is going to be wrong. Even if when you want to determine the gain or loss, it will be wrong. So everything is going to be wrong. So you have to make sure you are very accurate when you are determining issues to do with depreciation. Of course, the issues of bad debts and provision for doubtful debts very key. And you must understand if it's a reduction in provision, how do you go about it? If it's an increase of provision for doubtful debts, how do you go? Or if you are creating one, or if a bad debt was written off and it's being recovered, okay, how do you go about it? Issues of discount, very important. Is it a trade discount? Is it a cash discount? And you have to understand all that aspect. So I hope you're trying to evaluate your extent of readiness to the examination. Aspect of IAS2 is very important. Understand IAS2 and the cost that comes about IAS2, which formula they use in the weighted average, FIFO, LIFO, and how do you go about that IAS2. And then the preparation of financial statements, as I said earlier, it is a trading firm. A trading firm is for a merchandise, they buy and sell goods. So in that case, you have that trading aspect. You have the sales and you have cost of sales. So you have to understand how you go about that. And of course, in that case, then issues to do with returns, issues to do with if it's manufacturing, there will be that aspect of discount and so forth. Issues to do with carriage inwards. You have to consider all that aspect. I think they normally don't set for you the aspect of VAT. So it wouldn't be an issue. And if you're doing for a limited company, how do you prepare it? Manufacturing concern, how do you do it? And I think I've seen other previous comments about manufacturing. We are going to see later still. But manufacturing, I think I see most of the comments of the examiner is about apportionment. Apportionment and a student being able to know which are direct costs, which are indirect costs, which are those overhead costs. How do you distinguish a direct and an overhead cost? Now, when you reach to the P&L, then how are you able to distinguish between the administrative costs, the selling and distribution costs, and the finance costs? You should be able to distinguish it. And why I say this is very important is that you must be able to distinguish these sections of that cost, because they normally give you apportionment of expenses. That the apportionment may be selling and distribution is this one, administration is this one, finance is this, direct costs are this. If you can't be able to distinguish between that, then you see a problem will come in because you're going to apportion wrong values to a different section. And of course, that one will affect a decision-making of the users because you will not have guided them appropriately. They'll end up making a wrong decision because you need to do appropriate apportionment. Of course, the other aspect of incomplete records, which I think I have explained very well, you must understand the aspect of control account and the markup and the margins very well and how you can use them to be able to get your client. But also, in this case now, we are looking at how we're going to excel in the exam. And then the aspect that I talk about correction of and suspense, I think I explained that you should know how to prepare a suspense account. And maybe I can just speak in this section here. In the preparation of a suspense account, I don't know why the students find it very difficult. Me, I normally tell you students, when you are preparing issues to do with the suspense account, when you prepare that journal entry, okay? When you're correcting the errors, you prepare a journal entry. anything that is going to affect a suspense account must have when you are making the correction of that error, it must have the aspect of a suspense, because in the process of correcting errors, it's not everything would affect a suspense account. No, sometimes you correct the errors and they have nothing to do with the suspense account. So if they have nothing to do with the suspense account, it means that even when you open a suspense account, they will not appear there. Okay, they will not appear in the suspense account. Only those errors that will require you to post an amount to the suspense account that will be recorded in the suspense account. Then, of course, I've talked about correction of errors, preparation of corrected trial balance, statement of corrected net profit. Now, this part of the statement of corrected net profit, again, I want to give you a simple trick. When you are preparing that journal entry to correct errors, how can you tell which items are going to affect the corrected net profit and which items to add and which items to subtract? That was the last sitting comment of the examiner. I hope I will get the time to show you. Now, I think I wish I would even get, I think I'm going to look at the marking guide. I open and I show you, hopefully I can get time. When you do that journal entry and you record, you correct the errors, if there's any item that normally appears in the profit or loss, it will definitely affect the corrected net profit. Any item that when you prepare a statement of profit or loss, it's normally recorded there. And by correcting errors, you have either debited or credited. It means it will affect the corrected net profit. That is one. Second, how do you know whether you are to add or to subtract? That was the comment of the examiner. The students didn't know whether they were to add or subtract. To be able to know whether to add or subtract, if the item is affecting the profit or loss, and by correcting it in the journal entry you are prepared, the item is debited. Remember, a profit or loss, when it has a normal credit balance. So if you are to reduce it, you debit. If you are to increase it, you credit. So it's the same knowledge, double entry, members, double entry, yeah, double entry, meaning that in that journal entry, if the item affects a profit or loss, and in the journal entry by correcting, you debited, it means you are going to subtract. If the item was credited and it affects a profit or loss, so it means that in your corrected net profit, you are going to add. So you just look at your journal entries, whatever is affecting profit or loss and is debited, you go and subtract. Whatever affects profit or loss and is credited, go and add it. As simple as that. I am thinking you can do that number in 5 minutes. And you get everything correct. I mean, everything correct when you have the basics. And of course, also the statement of corrected financial position. Of course, now if you have made correction of those errors, there are those that would affect the P&L and there are those that are going to affect the balance sheet. Make sure you make the correction in there after. And then, of course, the preparation of books of accounts for non-profit making organization, you must understand the receipts and payment. The receipts and payments is like a cash book. Now, subscription account. Hey, members, again, I see the same comment in the, I think that was last sitting, if I'm not wrong. I'm going to open. I've read some of the comments, quite a number of them. And the examiner was saying that a student was not able to what? The student was not able to separate the non-current liability and the current liability of the live subscription. It is so simple. When we talk about subscription account, we have the ordinary subscription and the live subscription. Ordinary subscription is paid every year. But of course, again, you must understand that we normally have advanced ordinary subscription and the subscription in arrears. So you must be able to distinguish those two. And also, in case there is a balance is brought down and carried down, you must understand how to treat them. When you go to the live subscription, you must understand how are they handling them for how many years and how much is the live subscription for each year. But if they tell you to separate the non-current and the current live subscription, if, for example, you're going to pay subscription for 10 years, a non-current liability is going to be paid after 1 year, so meaning 2 years, 3 years. And a current liability is within 1 year. So if, for example, you add 10 million, and each year is for 1 million, it means 1 million within the 10 will be paid within 1 year. So that becomes a current liability. Then the other 9 million will be for the year 2, year 3, until year 10. So you just separate them and put the one within 1 year to be for current, and then the other ones for the remaining 9 years to be the non-current live subscription. I saw that comment and I feel like I should speak about it, and I think it has been a comment, and therefore you should be able to distinguish yourself really at the current and the non-current liability. So I hope you are evaluating yourself and to the level of preparation and to what extent you have understood and getting ready for this financial accounting paper. And of course, the other aspect of the income and expenditure. Normally, income and expenditure is very not difficult, I want to assure. And because now we are all getting ready, so you all have an idea. But again, in case this non-profit making organization have a trading account, it means if they have a trading account, you must prepare their trading account and determine the profits they have made, of which profit will become part of the income for that non-profit making organization. So meaning that it will take you back again to a trading account. So you have to do the trading account within the non-profit making organization, determine the net profit, and then bring that net profit in the income and expenditure statement. So that's why I'm telling you, you can't say, I will study this topic, I did the other one. Apana. You have to balance all of them, have an idea, understand all of them. And of course, finally, is for you to be able to describe the ethical responsibilities and the challenges of financial accountants. Have an idea, what are those ethical responsibilities and what are some of those challenges and how do you go through them. So briefly, let me just take you through what examiners expect from you. I'm assuming all of you now, you're getting ready for the examination, and what is that is expected of you. I must have hinted in most of the items, but I'll still mention them again. 1, 2, to be ready, get ready, adequate, cover all the topics. Members, don't read at the last minute. Don't spot, and I will keep to tell you, don't spot. Read everything, get ready. And reading, and for you to understand that you go through the learning outcome, go through the syllabus, see, this one I've understood, I can do any number, I can handle any scenario, I can tackle any question that comes my way. Make sure you have read adequate, make sure you have understood all the topics in the syllabus, don't spot, don't read at the last minute. You know, accounting, even in the university, I tell them the same thing. You can't read at the last minute. Accounting needs, you have been practicing and practicing and practicing until at the time when you're going to go for the examination. And that's why I told you, by the time you reach to go to exam, you know everything. Follow instructions, don't set your own question. I've already given you examples. Someone just, because they know this question always comes, when they see something similar to it, they prepare it when it is not what was required. What are you required to do? Read the required, and normally I would advise the students, when you reach, you are attempting a number, go to the required. Don't start reading the question from the beginning. Question 4, come and this and this. Go to the required. What am I required to prepare? And then, having understood what you are required to prepare, now go to the question and start reading it. So that as you read it, you are trained to, comprehend and see, what am I supposed to answer as I read this question. Manage your time appropriately. I told you, you get so much excited, and then you want, because you know this number very well, let me show them I understood. You forget that you have other numbers to do, and by the time you are finished, the number time is coming up. So you end up failing, not because you're sweet or you don't know, just because you didn't manage your time appropriately. And by the way, not in a bad way, but sometimes when you're writing down, and maybe, especially when you are not fully prepared and somehow you forget something, don't stress yourself to remember it, and you take like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Hey, what was my friend discussed? You can leave that number. Leave like 1 or 2 pages. Go and start another number. In the process of doing another one, when you remember, come back and complete it. But don't get stuck there because you didn't remember. Now I have to wait until I remember it. Time is not waiting for you. If you can't remember it at that time, because it's no more human being, where examination is the examination, doesn't matter. It can happen and you forget. Leave that section, go and do another number. Later, you can come back and complete it. But make sure you manage your time. Indicate the numbers you have attempted. Very important. Indicate the numbers you have attempted. You have done number in the chronological order in how you attempted them. Record them. Avoid attempting extra numbers. Remember, I told you that you're going to waste a lot of time for nothing. You're not going to be awarded for excess numbers you have done. There will be no mark attached to it. That's why I told you before you start to attempt, look at those numbers you feel you can do them adequately, very comfortably, and therefore tick those numbers that you do. Do the numbers you are required to. Don't do extra, you're wasting time for nothing. Provide all necessary workings, whether you have been asked for them or not. Whether they ask you, whether they tell you, you must provide working. No, just make sure. Some people, you go to do your workings in the question paper. and then you leave the answer booklet does not have those workings. When the examiner teaches there, they are going to see the workings, and that's where you're going to get the marks. Now you would have gone with the workings to your home. Now, how would the examiner get to see what you have done? So it's important that when there is any working that is needed, whether needed or not needed, but you need to do a working for you to get the solution, do it in your answer booklet. And I repeat, do it in your answer booklet. You know, sometimes you can add something and you find maybe you have added wrongly, but you show how you are adding it. And I imagine when the examiner, maybe Madam Claire will tell us, when they see how you are to arrive there was correct, even when the answer is wrong, probably because of adding wrongly, you can get a mark for it. But now, if you added it in a calculator and you just put the answer wrong, no one knows how you arrived there. How will you get that mark? You can't get it. Be neat and avoid crossing and canceling the answers. Actually, now one of the, I saw them sometime back, this one, students will cancel the right answers and write the wrong ones. Sometimes if you want to look at your neighbor's work, how can you go to the examination room and you want to trust your friend's brain more than your own brain? Imagine you have been preparing all these months and you enter the examination room and you want to believe that your friend has a better answer than you. Surely speaking, me, that one I warn you. You must believe yourself and believe in what you are doing. You are prepared. You have attended this engagement this morning. Instead of working or being somewhere, get yourself ready. Go in there, believe your brain, believe in what you have done. Don't look at your friend or avoid answering. In most cases, the first answer you think by the way, it's always correct. Avoid skipping pages while answering. Most students, they, as I told you, like in case you are doing a number and you have forgotten something, and you leave like maybe like one page, not even like 3-4 pages just for something small to be answered. It can happen. But there are those students, they just want to skip like 2-3 pages, and then the answer at the end of the page, that's where they want to put the answers. In most cases, the examiner may even not be able to see that. But of course, what I know, ICPAU does a thorough checkup to make sure they mark everything. But why would we make an examiner go through that? Please make sure you answer the things appropriately. And of course, what are some of those common causes of students' failure? I told you earlier, one, inadequate preparation. Honestly speaking, if you have not prepared yourself adequately, the probability of you being able to answer that exam is almost not there. You're going to read this, I know ish. I can answer part A. It only has 2 marks. Yeah, the other one I can't remember. You read another one, I can answer the last one. The first one I have forgotten. Because you are not fully prepared. You start answering in the middle of the number. Yeah, you've forgotten everything because you have not done adequate preparation. So that causes the students to fail. And those things of spot reading don't. Lack of understanding of the concept of double entry. You see, I've kept on saying double entry, double entry, double entry. Double entry is everything we need here. At the start of our accounting, understanding what is accounting of us becoming accountants, we must understand the concept of double entry system. Students have a challenges in appreciating the concept of depreciation. I've said about that. Time apportionment, I've mentioned about that. And I put it in red because this affects you so much that if you make an error from the beginning, year one, and the rest of the other years, all will be wrong. So you can imagine how you would have done hard work for nothing to gain. Wrong choice of questions. I've said that in case you don't pick the right questions to do, that is likely going to affect you. You may enter the examination room and you find you know everything, but also pick those questions that is going to take you a shorter time to answer. Because the question can be very good, you know it, but it's going to take you maybe longer time to answer. Take that can take a shorter time and you're able to answer everything correct. Misunderstanding that the required in the questions, setting your own questions, I've mentioned about that. Sometimes you enter the exam and you end up setting your own questions. Some people attempt less questions than required. And this is lack of preparation. You realize that, I don't know it. And you know, hey, the first thing with accounting is either you know or you don't know now. If you don't know how a genotype looks like, even if you think you are for 10 hours, you don't know. It's either you know or you don't know. That's what you are saying. Let us prepare. If you have not prepared enough, you not know what to answer. And I'm telling you, members, accounting it is possible. Financial accounting is the most interesting the paper you can start with. And it's one that should motivate you to proceed up there. But that only happens when we have prepared adequate. Even this God we serve above is our witness. You can never prepare for this paper properly, and God makes you not to remember or to answer those questions. Never. So we all need to have to do is prepare adequately, attend classes, make sure you discuss with your friends, get as many questions as you can. Attempt them and be comfortable that you can actually answer them. Some students spend a lot of time on a section that carries less marks. By the way, a question has 5 marks. You write it 2 pages. 2 pages for 5 marks now, sincerely speaking, just because you feel you know it. You are writing a lot of non-needed information. So if the question has 5 marks, I don't expect to spend more than a whole page to answer 5 marks. Half a page is even enough. Attempting a question that has, say, 5 marks in section 1, while one knows nothing in section, those excitement. You know one part, it has 5 marks. The other one, you know nothing. Now you want to do that one. Why can't you look at the one which has more marks that you understand? And ideally, I expect that everyone who has attended this seminar, to the engagement today, should be able to get ready on that day that you can't get in there and you can answer one section of the question. Why should you answer one section of the question? You should be able to answer basically everything. If there is something you can't remember, should be small, but you should be able to answer everything. Some people leave out objectives. Objectives, I told you, is a compulsory question. I think I had forgotten, but something. You must make sure you answer. Some people circle and you go with your question. I'm telling the exam is very funny. Now you have circled and then you go out with it. Now, how will the examiner know which answers you had given? Yeah? Some students, of course, they fail to attend classes, and some of you never read the examiner's comments. And we said these examiner comments are very important because they really pinpoint to you and show you what you need to do. Some people can't differentiate between fundamental. I've mentioned about that. Students are not able to compute the value of inventory IS2. Some people are not able. That is lack of preparation. Differentiate the revenue and the capital. I told you how it can affect the cost of the non-current asset and hence on affect how you're going to compute depreciation. Apportionment of expense. I told you that, especially in the aspect of manufacturing. Students are normally not able to apportion. They can't tell which one is for selling and distribution, and especially when you are given percentage and fractions. But again, what affects there, I see the comment of, I think, August. The issue was you are given accrual and prepayment. That's why I took some little time to explain about accrual and the prepayments. Now, if you don't determine the right amount for that expense, for example, it had an adjustment, maybe it was an accrual or a prepayment. If you don't determine the right amount of the expense, and then you go to apportion, if you get the wrong value of the expense, you're going to apportion wrongly, and everything is going to be wrong. So it's important that you are able to apportion it appropriately. And then partnership accounts, especially capital, yeah, you need, especially that part of Ghana, the insolvent partner. That's been, as I comment, seen in some of the comments of the examiner. Students have failed to determine how the solvent partners share the deficiencies of the insolvent partner. Please look into those. And you know, one thing I don't know, if you look at the examiner's comment, it's enough to really make you even excel. Because in the examiner's comment, you are able to see what is not being done well. Make sure for you when you enter in the examination room, you have done it right. Just make sure you've done it. Those comments they look at them and see what is it that they are not doing appropriately. And make sure you have done those things appropriately. Because now when we don't look at those examiners' comments, you're going to go there and you're not going to be able to do the right thing. You're going to repeat the same mistakes that were done. You're going to repeat the same mistakes. And then now I think the examiner wonders, why do the students repeat the same mistakes over and over and over and over? Why do they repeat the same mistakes? Those mistakes are being repeated because you have not taken an initiative to look at what was not done right, what were the examiner's comment, and what should actually be done. I think that is the end of my presentation. I'm going to stop there. Maybe something small just before Claire. I know I've gone 5 minutes ahead. Just let me share something very small. This is an answer. This is the solution. Which solution normally is shared with you people? I'm just showing you a journal entry to correct errors. What I was talking about, the suspense. And for example, let me say, like, for example, how do we tell which items would affect a suspense account? For example, if you see item number 5 here, there's item of suspense, and you see a suspense is debited. It means that when you go to the suspense account, this item will appear in the suspense, and even part 6 item will appear in the suspense. But if you are correcting the profits and you don't know, I have seen that one was last sitting. The exam was saying the student didn't know what to add and what to subtract. Add. If you come to the depreciation of motor vehicle, depreciation of motor vehicle appears in P&L, and in this case, in the correction of errors, it is debited. It means that when I go to the corrected PL and I'm going to subtract because it is debited, accumulated goes to the balance sheet, so that one doesn't affect. Bank does not affect. Data does not affect. Payable purchases affect. But in this case here, the purchases affect P&L. In this case, it is credited. So when we go to the corrected net profit, I will go and add because P&L has got a normal credit balance. So when I go to P&L, I'll go and add. Receivable does not affect. Sales affect. And in this case, sales is credited. It means that when you go to the corrected net profit, you are going to add. Bad debt written off affects P&L. In this case, it is debited. It means in my corrected net profit, I will go and subtract. Data does not affect. Suspense does not. Cash sales affects. It is credited. It means in my PL, and I am going to go there and add. When you come down, I see returns out. Returns out normally affects. In this case, it is debited. It means that in the corrected net profit, I will go and subtract. So it's so simple. Anything that is debited, you subtract. Anything that is credited and affects P&L, you go there and add. I think I should stop there, not to take up the time for the students to engage, so that I hand over to CPA Claire. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Carol, for that powerful presentation. Since we have very limited time, we shall just dive into the questions. Just take a sip of water and we start on the Q&A. Members, anyone with questions, kindly post them in the Q&A. Remember, we end at 10:30. So, Kara, I think you attend to those 5 that are in the Q&A as we wait for other members to post their questions.
I'm seeing Patience says, would like some explanation on that current asset. What is capitalizing? Capitalizing any asset, any cost that is incurred to bring the asset into its usable steps will be capitalized. Like that cost will make that non-current asset to be put into use one, or the cost that is incurred in that non-current asset will be able to make it to perform better. If that is the case, then you will capitalize that cost. That's why you see, especially, okay, if it's the asset is being acquired, you will tell you the purchase price, the taxes that you're going to pay, the freight in case if you are importing the non-current asset, the import cost you will incur, the cost you're going to pick it from, say, from Mombasa to Kampala. If it's a machinery, in that case, if you have to install that machinery, the installation cost, the taxes, the non-refundable taxes that you have to pay, all those costs that will make that asset into its intended use, all of them will be capitalized. But that is when you are acquiring a non-current asset. But again, it can happen, for example, let me say in a classroom. In a classroom where you are studying, for example, they can come and, let me say, they come and they paint that classroom, for example. If they painted that classroom and put a nice writing system and etc., the class will still carry the same capacity of the students, and therefore the fee will still be the same. So that kind of expense, you can't capitalize it. But for example, if in your classroom they came and extended that building and made the room bigger, it will mean that if they made that room where you were standing to be bigger than it was, it means that it's going to carry more students than before, meaning that they are going to be able to generate more income than they were generating before. And therefore, that cost of extension of that building, of that classroom, will be capitalized. Why? Because it has enabled the organization to be able to generate more income. So the structure is going to generate more income because of that extension of that building. So that cost of extension will be capitalized. So when we talk about capitalizing, we're looking at the cost that can make the asset either to be put into its intended use, or can make that asset to be able to produce more than it has been doing before. but just making it look better and still it remains in its own original state or still producing the same, we will just expense such a cost, but we don't capitalize it. Then attendee, anonymous attendee. Thank you for the elaborate. I just want clarity. Some journal questions require us to show the journal entries. And as we practice, we actually do journal entries. However, the past paper solution show a fully prepared journal on this issue. Some journal questions require us to show the journal entries. Can that person maybe explain what they meant by this? Because if you say journal entries require us to show journal entries. Journal entries are journal entries. There are no more journal. If the question requires you to prepare journal entries, those are journal. You are preparing a journal in short. Remember, what is the journal? A journal will prepare everything, any other information that cannot appear in the sales day book, or a purchases day book, a cash book, return inward, return outward journal. That information will be put in the journal. So if a question asks you to prepare journal entries, those are normal journal. It's a normal journal. Just that they'll tell you prepare journal entries, but you're actually preparing a journal. It is a journal. Unless otherwise, I hope I got that question right, and I hope I've answered it right. If not, the anonymous attendee, please, you can still go on and ask a question. Okay. Okay, am I supposed to follow all IS1 formats while preparing all financial statements in this paper? Yes. That's why I said the few of those C standards that we are actually applying in financial accounting, IS1, IS2, IS16, mainly those ones, I think, unless I've forgotten. So when you're preparing this different financial statement, you use the format of IS1. We are using the standards. Where do we get these examiners' comments? Madam Claire, please put that down, and the students need to read them.
Okay, I can attend to that right now. Ruth,
yes.
This is Ruth. We get the examiner's comments from the website, ICPAU website. You'll be able to find past papers as well as solutions. So just go to the website and you'll be sorted. And the rest of the members who didn't know where these are located, just go to the website and navigate it. You'll be able to get those resources. So Carol, you can continue.
Okay, thank you very much, Claire. My humble request, members, please kindly, it will not take you a lot of time to read those comments. Please, it won't take you a lot of time. Just try to read them. Those points that are being pointed out, make sure you enter in the examination room when you are very comfortable about it. And then Ismail Mulindwa, kindly highlight on how to treat markup and the margin. Now, how do I answer this? Mainly the markup and margin, we mainly use it in incomplete records. And whereby maybe the company was making maybe a markup of maybe 20%. And in some cases now, they want you to determine what were the sales for that company, what were the purchases of that company. So in most cases, you actually work backward to determine them. But maybe the other thing you need to know that sometimes they can even, especially even in the, maybe sometimes in the MCQs or so forth, they can give you the item of a markup and you're supposed to change it to the aspect of the margin. Please go and see how can you change a markup to a margin. That's one you need to, basically a markup and margin is for you to determine the sales of the incomplete businesses or the purchases of the incomplete records. So if you are given that, unless I'm to demonstrate to bring it out, but basically they are in aspect of incomplete records that they give you to compute that. So what you need to do is to understand how do I compute, how do I use this margin? Because a markup is based on the cost of sales. A margin is based on the sales. So meaning that you're looking at the profit, the net profit in the aspect of margin, and you're looking at the gross profit in the aspect of the markup. Just that you need to know for the margin, there's something they do 1 minus something. Just go and look into it and you see how you arrive into it. Unless that I see time would allow me, I could demonstrate, for example. Eddie Ruswata, what if they bring a number of bank reconciliation and we are supposed to tick off the transaction in the, this one is allowed. This one is okay. It's just a tick. You are not writing. you are putting a tick. And of course, during reconciliation, if you are given a number on a cash book and a bank statement, you can identify which are the direct debits. So you can put there direct debits, direct credits, unpresented checks, uncredited checks, dishonored checks, cash errors, bank errors, and then you tick where you need to tick. Having done all that, you are not expected to write anything more. Then the rest of the other information, you record them in your answer booklet. Even the correction of the errors, you can correct them within your answer booklet. That one, I think, clear, it is allowed. They can put the ticking and identification of those items during the reconciliation, because you cannot reconcile without ticking. It's impossible.
Yes, so it's okay. They can tick. It's okay.
Okay. And then Stephen Opio, thanks for discussion, madam. Clarify for me on the concept behind decrease and increase in provision for bad debts. Now, that aspect of the provision for bad debts, now you need to understand two things. When they talk about decrease and increase, look at the word, is it to or by? I hope you're all listening. Is it to or by? What do I mean by that? What can I? Kindly, ICPA, you could you stop to share the screen a bit? I want to see. Kindly, I want to share briefly just to bring this out. Or okay, let me just explain. I hope I can be able to explain it very fast and they get it. When you say, let me just use an example. Let me say, for example, you had a provision for doubtful debts of say 2,000. Yeah, in the trial balance, you had a provision for doubtful debts of 2,000. And maybe in the additional information, they tell you that the provision for doubtful debts is going to increase by 1,000. If they say it's going to increase by 1,000, then it means that now the new provision for doubtful debts will be the 2,000 in the trial balance plus the 1,000 it has increased by. So in the statement of financial position, you're going to put your debt as minus provision for doubtful debts will be 3,000. But in the statement of profit or loss, there will be increase in provision for doubtful debts of 1,000, because remember, we are talking about double entry. So that 1,000 increment would appear in the P&L as an increase in provision for doubtful debts, 1,000. But in the balance sheet, when you're going now to record the debt as less provision for doubtful debts, you are going to get the 1,000 that was in the trial balance plus what it increased by the 1,000. So it will be 3,000. But if they had said provision for doubtful debts was to decrease by 500, yeah, if they say it was going to decrease by 500, then it means that in the statement of financial position, you are going to record now. Remember, in the trial balance, it was 2,000. If it decreases by 500, in the statement of financial position, you are going to record 1,500. So you're going to get your debtors minus provision for doubtful debts. Now it's going to be 1,500. But in your statement of profit or loss, it's going to be under miscellaneous income, or what we call other income. And then you say this decrease in provision for doubtful debts, and you're going to record only 500. Remember, a statement of profit or loss, we prepare it for the year ended. So only those items that only affect that year. So that decrease of 500 will be recorded under miscellaneous income, under other income, as a decrease in provision for doubtful debts, and you record 500. And then in the balance sheet now, you want to reduce the provision for doubtful debts from 2,000 by 500, so it will be 1,500. Now, this again, they can tell you that provision for doubtful debts was to be recorded, or it's to be increased to, you know, there's a word by. At first I said reduced by 1,000, they reduced to by 500. Now, they can tell you that provision for doubtful debts was to increase to 5,000. Now, I hope you are watching my words. That's why I wanted to type down, but I hope you are following. Now, if they say provision for doubtful debts is to increase to 5,000, It means that if you had provision for doubtful debts of 2,000 in your trial balance, and the additional information tells you that it's going to be increased to 5,000, in the statement of profit or loss, you're going to say increase in provision for doubtful debts 3,000, because now it would have increased by 3. Because we are saying it will be to be increased to 2, 5. So the increment is only 3. So under the operating expense, you will say increase in provision only 3,000. And then in the balance sheet, you put your debtors. Then you say less provision for doubtful debts. You are going to record the 5,000 because they have said it is to be increased to 5,000. So you are going now to record 5,000. I hope we get me that right. So same thing will happen with a decrease. It can say maybe now a decrease will just give you what it has. So you need to watch, is it increasing to or by? Those are the key words you are supposed to pick from the scenario. Are you increasing to? Are you reducing by? Even sometimes also you can have scenarios which can tell you maybe there were bad debts to be written off that weren't written off, and then you have to give a percentage of net receivables. Always be careful with such scenarios. If there are bad debts that was not written off, you are supposed to, if you have debtors of 50 and there was a net a bad debt to be written off of 10, and then you have to give a percentage of a provision for doubtful debts, or say 5% on net receivable. It means you will have to get 50 minus 10, and then the 5% will be on the 40 because it's on the net receivable. So watch out those words, Stephen and all the other members. Depreciation allocations, time apportionment, pro rata basis, among others. At what accelerated and what is accelerated depreciation? Now, when when you talk accelerated depreciation, it means it will the first year the depreciation is less, but as you move on, the depreciation increases. Now, this depends on the type of the non-current asset. There are those non-current assets that it is first year put into use, it does not depreciate more as compared as the more you put it into, it is useful or in it is usage. So the more it is being put into use, the more it loses value. So when you talk about the accelerated depreciation, now this will depend on what type of a non-current asset are you dealing on to be able to know how to go about it. In the time apportionment and a pro rata basis is the same, by the way. A time apportionment, it means that you are going to apportion depending on to what extent was that asset put into use. So if you are computing depreciation and the non-current asset was put, say, in July, let me say 1st July, it means that you are going to compute depreciation for that year for only 6 months because it has only been put into use for only 6 months. Same thing with the part when you're going to dispose of a non-current asset. If the depreciation was on a pro rata basis, and say you are depreciating the non-current asset, say in March, end of March, if the financial year runs in January to December, it means that the asset would have only been put into use for only 3 months. So when you're computing the accumulated depreciation for the year that it was being disposed, the depreciation would only be computed for those 3 months. So you commit for 3 months plus other depreciation for the previous years for you to be able to know what's the total accumulated depreciation of this non-current asset before it was actually disposed of, for you to be able to know what was its net book value. So time apportionment is the same as a pro rata basis. How is the marking done? Do the examiners mark every right entry made or mark the final answers? No. Examiners not mark final answers, even in the university. Examiners mark entries. I even doubt, maybe Korea would clarify. I doubt whether there is at any one point where a final mark is given, a final answer is given a mark. She would clarify that. But from my own understanding, as far as examination is concerned, examiners mark entries. The entries you make, the workings you do, that is what is marked, not a final answer. So if you pick your Freddy's final answer from the corner like this, you look with an eye, and you just put an answer there, and you don't show how you arrived to it, you are likely to be in trouble. That's why I told you, make sure you have provide all the workings. Otherwise, you are going to end up missing marks for not having shown how you arrived to all those answers. Thank you. Okay. If repairs increase, the efficiency of an asset, are they capitalized in the statement of financial position? If repairs are normally just, those are maintenance costs. Maintenance costs cannot be capitalized. They are normally expense. Don't capitalize them. Is it necessary for narration in the journal entries? Okay, the questions which I have been reading, they indicate ignore narration. So I want to believe in here, the examiner is supposed to guide the students. Claire, I think you will add in where necessary, but what I know, examiner is supposed to guide the students and indicate that, especially where the examiner asks you to prepare journal entries, the exam is supposed to indicate ignore narration, because ideally you're supposed to put narration. So examiner is supposed to indicate ignore narration, so that in the examination we may not have the time to write all those things. Some light is needed on the trade in during disposal of asset. What do you mean by trade? I'm imagining maybe you are meaning exchanging. Yeah, I want to assume maybe Peter, I want to assume maybe that's what you meant, trade in during disposal of an current asset, which is very common. You can have the asset which is underperforming, and instead what you do, you exchange, and probably you add some money. So what happens that if you want to trade off that asset, you must be able to know it is net book value, and you are trading it at what value? Because there's also a probability that you are going to trade it at maybe probably a less value or more value, depending on what asset it is. But you must still determine the net book value of that item you want to trade off, and at what value are you trading it off, and what is the cost of the item that you are bringing in. And therefore, if there's any additional money that you have to add, then you must be able to determine what is the cost of the new item you have got. Which cost of the new item will be how much value was given the one you traded in, and how much money you added to acquire the new one. The total summation of the two will give you the value of the new non-current asset. Again, this becomes an issue with the IS 16. Now, if you don't determine that value very well, it means that you're going to depreciate the wrong amount. And when you depreciate the wrong amount, everything for all the years will be wrong. So when there's a trade in during disposal, please always make sure you determine the net book value of that non-current asset. After you have known the net book value, how much was it traded in? Yeah, how much was it traded in? So that you're able to know if you're bringing in a new non-current asset, then how much is it? So if say the net book value was maybe 15 million and they are trading in at 10 million, automatically you will realize that there will be a loss on the disposal of the item that you have traded in. But normally you must determine it is net book value and how much you have traded in to know whether there was a gain or there was a loss in the disposing of that one that you are trading in. And then last, you have been so fast while talking. How can I access a recording of this? Madam Claire. But now you don't talk like this now. You should have spoken the time I was speaking so that I slow down. Now I have already finished to speak. How can I now help you? Claire, I hope the students are allowed to have the recording. I think it will be very necessary in my point of view.
Yes, the students will get the recordings.
Okay.
They'll be
so
shared.
that you can go and you listen over and over, and then you can hear
In
that
slow
point
motion.
in a slow motion. Actually, thank you. Go and put it in a slow motion. It's good that the technology is there. You go and you put it on a slow motion, and they told me 1 hour, and then the other minutes I need to listen to you. So you go and put it in a slow motion and you record it slowly. I'm sorry for that, but I wish you had told me before I finished. Thank you, madam. I need clarification on where to record the answers for section A of objective. In the madam, actually, let me hand over to Madam Claire. I think you need to clarify that because I think I was confusing what happens in the university and what happens in the CPA examination room. Madam Claire, kindly, could you clarify section A? Where do they put the answers?
This was from
Rita,
so
Rita.
this is Rita and the rest of us who are experiencing this for the first time. The MCQs, that is section A, multiple choice questions should be, you should circle on that yellow paper of yours and you have to hand it in at the end of the examination. It's only section B, which is which is written in your pink booklet that you'll be given. Otherwise, section A, you circle that paper and you hand in that paper at the end of the examination.
Okay, this was who? Oscar. Oscar, you want to know the trick? Okay, it's not like really say a trick, but it's a fact. Okay, I said a trick. Okay, let me just call it as that as a trick, but it's just a basic. You need to know when to add and when to where I told you for you to be able to understand. No, that's why I told you need to know all these things. In the statement of profit or loss, we normally items that increases profit, we debit them. The ones which reduce profit, we debit. The items that increase profits are credited because income has got a normal credit balance. So when you are prepared your journal entry and you want to correct your profits, so the corrected net profit for that case, you look at those items that affect your statement of profit or loss. If there's any item which affects a statement of profit or loss, and in the journal entry you are prepared, that item is debited, it means you will subtract. If that item is credited, it means you will add, as simple as that. So because in the statement of profit, when we credit, it means we are increasing. When we debit, it means we are reducing. So in your journal entry, if an item affects statement of profit or loss and it is debited, it means you will subtract. If the item is credited, it means you will add. Like now here we say motor vehicle does not, but motor vehicle repair does. Now that is credited, you will add. If we come to depreciation of yes?
All right, I think this should be our last question because the next session has to start.
Okay.
At
I think
10:30.
Okay. So let me just peruse through. So basically, that's what I'm trying to say. Just anything that is debited, subtract anything debited, you add it. On the asset disposal. Now, that means I will not be able to answer the rest of these questions. Differentiate the journal and the ledger entries. Those are different. Journal, a ledger is even a T account. A journal is not a T account, so they cannot be the same. So
no, it's okay. You can answer. You can answer. Looks like there's an interval of 30 minutes between this session and.
Yeah. Okay. Slowly. Okay. Clarify on the asset disposal account. Asset disposal account records the asset that you're going to dispose of. So that asset that you want to dispose of, you take it is cost. The cost of that non-current asset. You credit the non-current asset, you go and debit disposal. Then you go to the accumulated depreciation. Credit accumulated depreciation with the total accumulated depreciation for that asset. And then you come and credit the disposal account. And then you go and say, how much did you dispose it of at? So, meaning maybe if you got it, maybe 10 million, depending how much, debit your cash or bank, go and credit the asset disposal account. And then now you compare the two to see whether there was a gain or there was a loss on disposal. What's the difference between preparation of a journal and a ledger entries? A journal is what I've been sharing, where a collection of errors were being done. That's a journal. But a ledger entries, these ones are prepared in a T account. A ledger is a T account, so it does debit credit. So even in journal, there's a debit credit, but that one, you open a T account for the ledger. So please don't, and most students, if you see those comments, they keep on interchanging. Journal, they do ledgers. Ledger, they do journal. Please go and look into them again. When a question required to prepare journal entries for the additional information, does it mean you just show the examiner what you debit and credit? Yes, that's what it means. When it gives you additional information and the question asks you to prepare journal entries for additional information. So in that additional information, you're going to prepare what I was showing you, like in that journal entries for the suspense. You show what is to be debited and what is to be credited. That is very true. My question is, which accounting equation do I pass when an asset is disposed of partially and the agreement involved the exchange of an asset and the top-up? I think I've already explained that. I didn't know there was a question. Timothy, I hope you are comfortable because I've already explained that when I was answering another person. Some light is needed on the trade-in during disposal. I think I've explained that. It's a common question. I've explained when you are trading in, you must first determine the net book value. So let me assume the asset was 100 million. The total accumulated depreciation is 20 million. So the net book value is 80. And then when they are trading in, they tell you they have traded in at 60. So it means that that asset you have traded in has lost value by 20. Yeah. So you still open the disposal for that asset, go and debit the 100 in the disposal account, credit the 20 in the disposal account, and then you see what you have traded in, the 60. So there will be a loss on the disposal of 20. And then the money which you have brought in, say me now you have traded in at 60. Then now you have added maybe 40 to acquire a new one. So it means that your new non-current asset is going to be 100, or let me say you have added, let me say 40, 60, you add another 60. It means that your new non-current asset is going to be 120. But you must determine the loss or gain on the disposal of the asset that you have traded in. But you must go through that whole process. How do we treat the agreement involving buying of goodwill in the books of accounts? You know, goodwill is an intangible asset, and if it has come in, you must value it. You must record it in the books of account. And where there is an issue of amortizing it, you still need to amortize it. How do we treat the agreement now? It will involve of course, when you talk about the goodwill, you must be able to look at the net assets of that company. And remember, when you're looking at the net assets, say if the net asset of the company were 400 million, but you buy that item at say 500, it means there's a goodwill of 100 million. So what you're going to pay for that business, you say you are going to pay 500. So your cash or bank will be credited 500. But when you are coming to debit the item you have acquired, you're going to debit the item of 400, and the other 100 will be debited to the goodwill account. How well should I prepare to pass section A? You read everything. On Mercy, Prosi, Mary, section A comes from everywhere, every part of the syllabus. That's the best way you can prepare it. Read every part of section of the syllabus for you to be able to answer it. Thanks for my inquiries. Is there a difference between an extended trial balance and the adjusted? I think you meant adjusted trial balance. An extended trial balance. I want to imagine that's an adjusted, because extended in which terms you prepare the trial balance and there are adjustments to be made, which must be reflected in the adjusted trial balance. Corrected or final trial balance. Now, when you talk about a final trial balance, it's already corrected. A final trial balance is already corrected, and you can as well call it an adjusted trial balance. All these ones mean the same thing. Musa, Musisi, all these mean the same thing. A final trial balance, it means you have already done the adjustments. So you can call it an adjusted, or you can call it a final trial balance. See, how do we record short banking and over banking when at the point of bank reconciliation? Now, this is over banking. I'm assuming you are making the corrections in here, and that now I'm looking at it in the perspective, an error made in the bank. And if the bank has done an over banking, then you're going to correct that error. And if it's a short banking, then you're going to add it. If it's an over banking, you're going to subtract it. How do you determine sales in P&L if given cash sales, credit sales, and additional information, 20% profit on sales? Now, if you want to determine the amount of sales, you must get the total sales. Get the cash sales, add the credit sales. You get the total sales. After getting the total sales, then you put the 20% profit on the sales for you to be able to determine the actual sales in the P&L. Pardon me, on the all accounting standards that we need to know for particularly financial accounting. Can look at the syllabus, because I may tell you IS1, IS2, IS16, and I forget one or two. Just look at that syllabus. See, thank you. How do you identify items that appear in the suspense account and do debit and credit the principal? The ones which appear in the suspense account are the ones that let me tell you something. When you are doing things of suspense, members, items that has issue to do with arithmetic and the double entry, if there was an error of arithmetic or double entry, automatically the suspense account will surface. Automatically the suspense account will surface. If the error was an arithmetic error or had something to do with double entry, let me say like single, you debited and you didn't credit and so forth, or there was an error in the figure, automatically a trial balance will surface. Period it is finished, or the period they started using it being used. Okay, you know, we compete from the point the asset has been put into its intended use, whether you have used it or not, provided it was ready for use, we start depreciating Isaac as at that time, the point at which it has been put into use, not at the point when you start to use it. No, at the point when you are put it ready for use, you start depreciating it. Kindly throw more light on time apportionment of depreciation. I think I've explained that, how to depreciate depending on the years you have used the assets. So there, members, let me just again maybe just emphasize, because there's a very big problem of students in this area. Just look at the examiner's comment every year. And roughly, students fail to get the number of depreciation. If the asset was put in September, 1st September, and you are preparing financial year by December, September, October, November, December, it means that the asset have been put into use for only 4 months. So when you compute depreciation, you are going to multiply times 4 over 12 to know what was the depreciation for only those 4 months. If you are disposing of that non-current asset, and they say you are disposing it of at the end of 30th June, it means that when you are computing the total depreciation for the year you are disposing it of it, and it's on a time apportionment, it means that depreciation will be computed for only 6 months, and then plus the other depreciation for the other previous years. So on time apportionment, it means that you must account for the date the asset came, the date the asset being depreciated, and to what extent has that asset been put into use. So you don't do the depreciation for the whole year. No, you do it for the months. And say if the months it has been put into use is 2, you say 2 over 12 times the amount of depreciation. If it is 4 over 12 times the amount of depreciation. Freddie, sharing some light on provision for doubtful debts. Normally, it is the current year provision that is subtracted from the trade receivable figure you have explained as we reduce the increase. Hey, wait. Allow me to answer this. Normally, it is the current year provision that is subtracted from the trade receivable figure. No, it's not the current year. It's, you know, a provision. You are assuming that the customers may not pay. So even the provision that is in the trial balance is also subtracted. You have explained as we reduce the increase or decrease, including what we have in the TB. Yes, yes. Please, Frederick, I hope you are listening and you are still in. Please don't make this mistake. The provision for doubtful debts we are preparing, if you have been given a trial balance, yeah, that was prepared for that year, and they have given you a provision for doubtful debts. And then in the additional information, they realized that they needed to increase or reduce. If you are increasing, you are going to increase plus what is in the TB, in the trial balance. Don't ignore that figure. Actually, let me give you an example. If in the additional information, they did not tell you anything to do with the provision, and you're preparing a balance sheet, you are going to get the receivable minus the provision for doubtful debts in the trial balance. You will subtract it in that trial balance because you're supposed to determine what is the net receivable. You must remove the provision that is recorded in the trial balance. So even when you are giving additional information and there's an increase or a decrease, it will affect what is recorded in the trial balance. Freddie, make sure you take that keenly. Don't make that mistake. What affects the useful life of a leased land? You know, now that's when you can go find out. Can you please share any contact of discussion group around the Chambogo? Now me, I don't know about that one. I'll tell you to go to Gloria School in Kisu. I don't know whether it's still there or in MTAC. Honestly, I don't know about that one. I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay.
Carol, we should be concluding.
Okay, I think Madam has answered about the objectives, so you know where to answer them from. Treatment of subscription paid, say, in 2016, but is for 2017, 2018, and 2019. when you are preparing financial statement. Now, again, be specific. Remember, anonymous attendee, you didn't say whether it was a ordinary subscription or live subscription. So if it's the ordinary subscription, the one for that year will be meant for that year. The one which has been paid in advance, it will be a liability. Yeah, I call it as a liability in the balance sheet until when the person consumes the services. But if it was a live subscription, still in the year 2016, you record the one for 2016 in that year, and then the one for 2017 will be a current liability. The one for ordinary subscription in advance and also in arrears. Now you must be able to distinguish also between those two. Okay. Okay. Usually when we use markup in the statement of financial position, we deduct the increase in provision for profit. Explain on that. When you use markup, which markup? Maybe you are talking of the percentage. It still depends on how the provision. I want to imagine is the provision for profit. Rona, I've not understood that question very well. Deduct the increase in provision for profit. What do you mean by provision for profit? Maybe provision for doubtful debts. I don't know, Rona, what you meant, but I think I've finished clear. Suppose I'm given equipment net book value and the 20% reducing balance balance. In the balance sheet, how do you determine the cost of equipment? You see, when you are given a net book value 20%, unless you know when the asset was put into use, Samuel, unless you know when the asset was put into use and you work backward. If not, it is going to be very difficult for you to know the cost because the net book value you are given is for that period. So you don't know how many years that asset had lost value to us at that time when you are depreciating. But if you know when the asset was put into use and you know the year you are in and you are given a net book value, you just do backward and you are able to determine the cost of that asset. But in most cases, when given a net book value, probably you are going to use a reducing balance method. I didn't get very well the question of Christine. I don't know what she meant by provision for profit. Then markup. She has confused me. Maybe she can find out and ask later. And we didn't get that one. Okay, I stop there, Madam CPA Claire. I think that is it. I don't think there's any other question. I've tried to really answer all of them. Thank you.
Yes.
Over to you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. CPA Teresa Caroline. It has been very wonderful. In fact, for me, it was a refresher. You've done it so perfectly. So for members, I see there are so many unanswered questions, but what we are going to do is we are going to go to the student portal. When you go to the student portal using your ID, you go straight to the main menu, and on the left corner, you'll be able to access the downloads, and in the downloads, you'll be able to see past papers, and you'll see the correlated solutions to those past papers, as well as examiners' comments to be able to answer some of these unanswered questions as we revise for our examinations that are coming up in May. So let's do that. Carol cannot answer all the questions today. We just have limited time. So thank you very much. As you see, call a friend who has not done quantitative techniques. If you've not done quantitative techniques, you can remain on, and you can also call up a friend who intends to sit for quantitative techniques in May. So thank you very much. I would like to hand over to Esther, our program coordinator, to take us forward. Thank you very
so
much.
Claire. Thank you so much, presenter, for that elaborative presentation. And thank you so much, our students. You came in large numbers, and even you posted your questions. Kindly, as you've been guided, take that guidance very well. Then we look forward for a pass. Our next session will be at 11 to 12:30, and we shall be having CPA 3, quantitative techniques. Thank you so much.